Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Idea to Value podcast. I'm your host, Nick Skillicon, and I'm thrilled to have with me today Eric Quint. He is the former VP and Chief Brand and Design Officer at many innovative companies, including two you've definitely heard of, 3M and Philips. We've got a lot to cover today. He's done a lot of work around the world with some of the biggest companies in the world. I'd just like to say, Eric, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, for having me. Always interesting to talk about innovation and design and the value of design.
Welcome to the Idea to Value podcast, where in every episode we highlight the latest insights into creativity and innovation from experts around the world. I'm your host, Nick Skillicon. I care about the evidence behind what makes ideas happen, and I've already helped thousands of people just like you through my unique insights into recent scientific findings of how creativity works. I also show you how to turbocharge innovation programs so they finally deliver on the value and ideas you've been struggling to execute. Get your free training on how creativity can be improved by registering now at www.ideatovalue.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. So before we get started, could you just give us a very brief background as to your journey in innovation, where you got started and how you got to where you are now?
Well, I guess it starts by doing and being interested in design. Because if you look at design as a way to innovate and to think about new solutions, you pretty fast get into an innovation space. And later, when I started to work after my college at Philips, it's always great to be in an environment where there is almost unlimited possibilities and access to knowledge and technology that can give you a lot of opportunities to find your way in the innovation space.
And there's probably so much we can start with, but one thing I've been really looking forward to is speaking about your time at 3M. Now, 3M, for anyone who's in the innovation space, is really held up as a leader when it comes to having a strong structure and process behind it to really encourage innovation from the bottom up. So I just wanted to find out whether some of the myths behind 3M are true, and then we can take it to some wider spaces. So the famous 3M allows their employees a certain amount of time to work on their own innovation projects. Is that actually true, and how did you see that manifested?
Yeah, so this is particularly a concept that started maybe a couple of decades ago, where and I was mainly focused on the science technology community, where there was an idea that if you run into daily challenges, probably you are the best. You have the best insights to come up with solutions to solve this, and then the company wanted to offer the structure and the infrastructure of the company itself to individuals and employees to elaborate and further explore those ideas. And then particularly when those ideas are not fitting a particular business and cross businesses, you need to have a kind of oxygen in your organization to get the exploration going. But the way I talk about it is always like if you think about an idea, it's a bit like a spiral, and it starts with a dot, which is the idea. And the idea itself is nothing at that moment in time. It's just an idea. But then you have to invest, knowledge and time and exploration and creativity and connection to technology and manufacturing and the market, of course, to see how you can nurture that idea and develop that idea to a level that the organization is ready to say, okay, well, we have a big fish here, and let's invest more substantial into it. And then you get into commercialization. And so I would refer to it a bit as innovation by coincidence. So if you allow everybody to come up with ideas, which is in principle okay, but I'm not so much in favor of thinking that everybody is an innovator. Innovation is a competence. It comes with resilience. It comes with knowledge. It comes with understanding how to navigate, a big structure of a company. And so that's one side of it. The other part of it is that I would hope companies have a strategy, because not any idea would land into a company, because if you are in the business of consumer electronics, you can have a great idea about leisure, but if it doesn't fit your strategic direction and vision and mission, you should not proceed. So I think innovation is also very much about being clear about what you're not going to do.
And how did that sort of manifest itself at 3M? Were people guided as to what sort of ideas would be accepted, or was it really free reign, like some of the textbooks would allow you to believe?
Well, if you go further back in history, I would say after the World War II, so 50s, 60s, I've seen this in Philips as well. Any idea almost that was linked to technology was almost a success in itself immediately when you were able to produce it, manufacture it, and bring it to the marketplace. So competition was not very much there, and it was all about who owns the technology, who has the knowledge, and then that was driving your innovation funnels very much. So that innovation by coincidence was a very effective approach to innovation in those eras. If you go back to now, then you see that competition is completely different. Access to technology is all over the place. So you need to have, I think, strong strategies and your businesses lined up, particularly with a future vision, to start to define what your innovation activities are, what your roadmaps are going to be.
One other myth I think that I've heard, and I wanted to find out if it's really true, is 3M at one point was renowned as being this amazing innovator coming out with thousands of new products, and then they tried to improve their business operation performance and their processes as well. And my understanding is they tried to implement processes like Six Sigma to try and make processes more repeatable and successful. But that ended up decreasing the success rate of new ideas and acceptance of new ideas. Is that actually something that happened at 3M, and how did that come to be?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, I think. I first want to come back to the previous question quickly. The approach that the company referred to was the 15% rule, they call it. And when I came into the company, I always said, well, I'm so happy I have the 100% rule in my team. Because I'm a design leader. I'm building a creative and design team. And actually, our main purpose is for the company to spend 100% of our time to explore new opportunities and make unexpected connections. So I just wanted to add that in terms of the role of design into all of that. I think you should see the whole Lean Six Sigma in a time that was very much appropriate, where the company was growing pretty steep, and there was a lot of activity going on. The company was pretty successful internationally in their expansion, and you see that there is an end to an open innovation activity in the company. If everybody is an innovator, you get tons of ideas, you get a lot of products, because the company was not hindered in terms of manufacturing or technology, access to technology. And at a certain moment in time, you have to start to, like I mentioned, I remember in one of my first meetings with the CEO, when I was entering into the company, I said, well, this company is such a long tail company. You have a lot of everything, but maybe at the end of the long tail, not everything is so effective and is creating so much value. And so Lean Six Sigma was a great approach introduced by a CEO that came from GE that time to help to create more structure and efficiency around the whole portfolio of 3M. Later, with the other CEOs, there was a focus on an optimization of the business portfolio. But yes, the Lean Six Sigma was a great way to create more efficiency and align strategies in the company. While saying that, that means if you are a company of, let's talk about the complexity of a Philips or any enterprise. You talk about in the case of 3M about 4 business groups, 23 divisions. You talk about activities in over 70 countries. You talk about 90,000 people. You have a portfolio of over 50 technology platforms that is available on corporate level to all of the company. So, hey, for designers, this is a playground. There's endless opportunity there. But in the endless opportunity, there's also a challenge here, because it can bring you into places that can be very funny to work in, but maybe not so efficient. And so you need to have at the other side, again, strategy and framework and rules of the game and policies to make sure that you're focused. And so that's important. So with the rules, yeah, you run the risk that you cut off some of that creativity and opportunity, but it's also about effectiveness. I think the open-ended innovation approach was not sustainable, because innovation by coincidence is not a way to go, and so you have to find a balance here.
So what was your role at 3M while you were there?
Well, when I was asked to join the company, my task was actually very simple. That is to create a platform for creativity and design globally for the company and build the capability for the company. And when I came on board, there was somewhat of activity and design going on in one of the BGs. At that time, they had 6 BGs. And that was obviously in consumer business. And so when I came on board, I had to reset the mind around design and creativity, because if you're not very well aware of design and what design can do, then it is obvious that you say, okay, let's have designers in consumer business because we need to have cool products. But when I came on board, I started to talk much more about the need for design and creativity in a B2B environment, which was 85% of the company. And there was no design at all there. And so I started to talk about and explaining about the fact that if you are in a B2B environment, the complexity goes up. Think about healthcare, for instance. You have to take into account multi-stakeholders, like a managing director of a hospital, and the clinicians, and the patient, and the family of the patient, and the nurses, and whoever is all involved in that system. And that complexity gets up. And as soon as the complexity gets up, you need to have creativity and design to help to get the right insights on the table and work on the right solutions.
So let's move on now to Philips. What was your journey at Philips, and what sort of work did you do there around innovation?
Well, Philips was another time. I started there in 1985, so that's a long time ago. As a young designer, working for, again, also business-to-business products like electron microscopy and professional audio and that kind of products. That company, the companies were very similar when I left Philips to 3M. They were both same kind of character, I think, in terms of number of businesses, international span of the innovation, and that was led very much by technology. And my role was first as a designer, growing through that organization, being part of the management team of the design team, doing 2 things. One was leading a design consultancy that was bringing our great innovation practices and the creation of visions of the future for third parties, which I did for 10 years. And so I was in a very great spot to work for many, many great brands like Microsoft and HP and L'Oreal and Heineken and GM, and I can go on. Also in China, we did a lot of projects. And at the other hand, I was the head of design management in the company. So I was creating process and structure and competence around design strategy and design management.
And it's really fascinating to think that a company which has a division of these talented designers and creative people would allow other potentially competitors, other large Fortune 500 companies to benefit from that. How did that come to be, and what sort of work did you actually do with them?
Yeah, so this is an interesting observation, but maybe very obvious to think like that. Um, um, if you think about collaboration and creative collaboration, which is a big theme that I promoted in 3M, it's all about working together in across functions and across boundaries to explore new opportunities. And it starts with, first of all, making sure that your alignment within your own function of design is smooth, because otherwise you're not able to work with other functions because if they don't know what you do, then it is not easy to engage. The second one is, of course, to work across the functions of a company. But the third layer of collaboration is the one of working outside of the boundaries of the company. And so it is there where I truly believe that there is a lot of opportunity for innovation, because you bring different worlds together, like a furniture world and a technology world, or a fashion and consumer electronics, that can suddenly bring you in complete new spaces. And so the reason why we started that kind of practice is to engage with other brands and explore new opportunities for learning, but also for potential acquisitions for the company going forward. So out of the work that we did, for instance, we were able to do work for a healthcare company, and that was so successful, and they were treating a cancer and had all kind of technology on that Philips decided to acquire that company. So it's the role of design as business developers. And I have had the fortune in my career to work across all those three levels of creating alignment and opportunity within a function, across functions within an enterprise, and beyond the boundaries of an enterprise with other companies or academia.
So I think let's move on then to one of the other things I'm really excited to talk to you about, which is you've got so much experience and insight around scaling creativity and sort of the benefits of design in large companies. How can other companies start benefiting from that? Have you got any sort of views about what it takes to take ideas really to the next business level?
Yeah, well, scaling, it's almost like, raising a kid. If you have the baby, which is the idea, you have to create an environment around it that is very protective. It's about learning a lot and making sure that you develop the idea to the next level. And then, like in life, you have all kinds of different levels across the development to successful commercialization. I think successful innovation starts by recognizing that you have those different levels. And those different levels need different competences, different processes, and different approaches to navigate those ideas successful through the system. After being so heavily involved in brand and actually brand innovation and innovation, meaning the conversion of technology into great solutions, which is, by the way, a thing we should talk about as well, because the definition of innovation is all over the place. What do we mean with innovation? For me, it's not. In many interviews, I'm always asked about that technology component and the conversion of technology into great solutions. For me, innovation is very much about creating meaningful ideas and navigating this successfully through the complexities of an enterprise to commercialize, But then also an innovation for me is only an innovation when it changes the behavior of people in the end.
I mean, that's actually not far off the definition which I use. If you Google what is innovation, ironically, the article which I wrote is the top of the list. What I've come to the conclusion of is innovation is taking an idea and turning it into a solution that adds value, and that's the important word, value adding, to the company and the consumer. Because there's a lot of new ideas which the inventor thinks is going to be amazing, but the customers don't want. And there's also ideas which the customers want, which wouldn't actually be feasible for the company.
Sure. Well, in a time where sustainability is so important, we cannot allow to bring any more gadgets to the world. And if I go and visit trade shows, then you see still a lot of gadgets around that you ask yourself, really, is this what the world is waiting for? So coming back on your question, so after 35 years navigating that brand and innovation challenge in big enterprises, I decided to co-author a book for Stanford University Press, which is about how to engage in effective design leadership at scale. I'm writing the book together with two professors, Gerda Hemser and Julia Calabretta from the University in Delft and in Melbourne, Australia. And the interesting thing is that we are want the book to be an inspiration for a new generation of design leaders, sharing all of our lessons learned, and also based on interviewing another 60 design leaders, executive design leaders, to come up with an approach of how to build a foundation in a big enterprise for creativity and design that can create added value and that is a great partner to innovation, and then particularly the scaling part of it, because it's not about having a team of a couple of creative designers in a corner doing cool stuff. Adding design and creativity to the innovation and branding process is about how the company works. So this is about a transformation program. And that's not easy, because we know transformation and change comes with different opinions and with resistance. And so I thought, okay, in 3M, we were very successful to grow the team in the years that I was there, from say roughly 20 to 200 people. And we did a lot of amazing activities with the team and created a lot of value. And so we thought, okay, wrapping that up in a book would be great for inspiring new design leaders and hopefully make their life a bit easier for them by sharing all the lessons learned.
So we don't want to spoil everything in the book, but let's maybe take sort of one either case study or one technique that you think would be useful for companies and leadership sort of decision makers. What's something that they can do quite quickly to make a change in the way that companies use the creativity of their people to improve their design processes, their brand, their innovative capabilities?
Yeah, if you think about design, I think the first thing, there's a few things, but the first thing is to recognize the difference between design as a strategy compared to design as a service. And so design as a service is very reactive. It's very much an afterthought. It's not very often creating a lot of value. And therefore it's not very appreciated. Actually, if you have design as a service, the value of design is managed by other people than designers in many cases, and therefore it's not very successful. If you think about design as a strategy, it's far more fundamental. You are proactive, involved in innovation and brand challenges and opportunities. You are creating value that is far more long-lasting and with an impact on portfolio more than on single product solutions. And I think, as we explain this in the book more, so when the company and the designers better understand what it is all about, you can start to position design in a completely different way, but also the appreciation for design will be completely different. I see that there are still many, many designers that are very servant in their organizations, and at the same time are getting very frustrated about the fact that they are not really creating the value as they could. And I think that's a choice. As a design leader and as a design team, that's a choice. If you don't want to be in that space, which I didn't want to be upfront when I entered the assignment at 3M, you start to position design as a strategy. And that means that the value that comes with it is completely different.
I think
so. That's one thing.
Yeah, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, the other thing is I see in many cases there is no governance around design. And so that means if your processes and methods and tools and the definition of what you do and where you can do it and how you can do it is not worked out, then it's very difficult for other parts of the organization to engage with design. And so a clear governance that is describing, who is leading design, who is managing design, how the investments in design are managed, where design is located in a physical location, then all what you do is an uphill battle because you are dependent on the goodwill that people give you in the organization to flourish or not. And so I think one of the messages of the book is that fearless design leadership is needed also to position creativity and design in a way that it really can add value.
Fearless is probably the operative word there, and is what I wanted to come on to with my question, because it's related to this strategy component. A lot of companies, I found more and more, don't actually have a very coherent strategy, let alone an innovation strategy. And it's that lack of clarity that makes it so hard for individuals and even teams in the company to be able to figure out, are my ideas, is my creativity actually contributing to the company? Is it going to be accepted? What's your view on the role of a strategy when it comes to innovation and design?
There's a few things. One, if I talk about my partners in crime in terms of driving innovation, I always talk about marketing, of course, R&D or technology or the scientists, which is linked to manufacturing, and then strategy. That are the four that I think define the future of a company and should shape the company sustainable business going forward. I agree, a lack of strategy is making it, like I said, an innovation for all. And what I see is also another thing is that if people get stuck in all of this, they start to get consultants in to help them to speed up their and rejuvenate their innovation activities and pipelines. And for me, there is an essence here is that innovation, as well as brands, but particularly also innovation, that should be owned by the company. Because in my consultancy practice, I remember we were able to be very successful there. Why? Because we were not only bringing new ideas to companies with say approach from a completely different dimension, but we were also talking as soon as the idea started to shape with the company about asking questions about what capabilities do you need to start to prepare for to bring that idea further? What is the structure that you're going to have in mind? Is there a separate organization that is going to run with it? That's all governance and structure that you need to have in place in order to create that incubator environment for that vertical idea that still can go anywhere. So if you think about the innovation dilemmas that companies have, it's first of all, I think the number of ideas. They are focused so much about the number of ideas instead of the best idea. And it is not easy to find the best idea if you don't have your insights and your strategies and your frameworks and ambitions well defined, because then any idea is a great idea. And you know that you don't have the money and time to develop any idea. The other one is, I think, still I see a lot of focus on technology first instead of people and insights first. And in the end, an innovation needs to be meaningful and relevant. And who cares what technology is in there? You also have the challenge of existing customer needs versus latent customer needs, because if you think about the horizons of innovation, you can make successors of successors, which means you have a lot of knowledge about the markets and insights on the customers already. Or is it a new idea and a new market? And what does that mean? And so how are you going from insights to foresighting to make sure that you can shape your ideas and your strategies going forward in the right way? And then you see, of course, what we discussed quickly, the fearlessness and the fear in organizations, where there are corporate rewarding cultures that are not stimulating any entrepreneurial behavior. And so it's all about risk aversiveness, because it can impact your career. And I remember that when I was in one of my first meetings with the CEO in 3M, I mentioned to him and I said, well, if I can come up with the right arguments to stop new ideas, I will create a hell of a lot of value for the company. And let's pause a bit with that, because those big companies have so much limitless opportunities that almost anything is possible. So the question is, it's not only about managing this challenge side of things, but you also need to mitigate and navigate all of this in a way that is effective. And so coming up with good ideas and good rationale, of course, insight driven in many cases, to say, hey, maybe this is not a good idea. Well, that means you don't spend time on and capacity and human capital on ideas that might never fly off, and allocate it to ideas that maybe are huge and can make a breakthrough impact in the marketplace and to customers. So I think these are a few of these challenges that we have. And I think to talk about digital a bit, because we have not touched upon that, all these companies that are having a physical, so make products, they know exactly how to do it. But as soon as a digital component comes in there, you get a completely different dynamics. And therefore it is so complex. And what is the different dynamics? Products you can develop in dark corners in your laboratories and in your manufacturing sites, are almost solitaire, because they are mechanisms in itself. But as soon as you start to bring in digital, you tap into the complexity of an ecosystem. And that means a lot of alignment needs to happen in order to move those ideas forward. So the complexity of Internet of Things and digital solutions ask much more of collaboration and alignment in big companies. Not even to talk about the alignment on what kind of technology platforms they are going to use, digital technology platforms. And so you see so often in those big companies, everybody has a reason to start their own version of a digital platform. And then companies end up in HR or in the technology or innovation side with hundreds of variations of platforms that not speak with each other, and you never can elevate and scale to an efficiency. And so that's one of the challenges, I think, in innovation when you start to get into digital.
Absolutely. Look, Eric, there's thousands of things we can probably talk about, but unfortunately, we're coming up to the end of the interview. But if people want to find out more about you, your work, your insights, what's the best place they can go to find out more?
I think Google on my name on internet, and the other thing is go to my LinkedIn. There's lots of articles and other podcasts where I talk about brand and design. And then end of the year, the book will be published, and that will hopefully inspire a lot of creative design leaders to enable a design to another level and scale in their companies.
Perfect. I'll make sure to get all of those links down in the description below. Eric, it's been wonderful speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking again with you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave me a comment about what you thought and what you'd like to see more about. If you want to take your creativity and innovation capabilities to the next level, then invest in yourself with the premium training only available at ideatovalue.com. These exclusive training modules have all been put together by me, Nick Skillicorn, and have been used by thousands of artists, innovation leaders, and CEOs to become better at understanding the source of their creativity and executing on their innovation ambitions. And there is no risk to you, as they are backed by our money-back guarantee. Now, don't forget to go out there and make your ideas a reality. See you again soon.